Hey guys, welcome to Tranquility Base. In today's video, we're going to be reviewing the Simplewax and Waxplanet collaboration wax called Armageddon. Let's begin. So prior to waxing, this car was given a full safe wash procedure. So snow foam, 2-bucket wash. It was then towel dried and assessed. It was decided there was no need to do any decontamination on the paintwork or claying, as it was done relatively recently and it just simply didn't warrant it. I did, however, use a light finishing polish just to remove any traces of previous waxes or sealants, whichever was on the paint from the previous clean, to make sure that the Armageddon had a clean base just to adhere to and to allow Armageddon on its own to really show what it could do. Once I'd picked up a small amount of wax on the WoWo applicator, I did a small test section off camera and it showed me that the wax was going on really easily. It was very smooth, very slick, and it led me to make the decision not to wet the applicator, which is necessary in some waxes. This one just simply didn't need it. So as I waxed the car, I made sure I was working in a methodical pattern. It may look relatively random, but for me, habitually, I tend to follow a relatively similar path every time. And that just allows me to ensure that every part of the paintwork gets an even and fair coat of the wax. This is going to eliminate any issues with streaking, patchiness, or just poor finish where I may have skipped over a stage. And of course, 2 coats of wax were applied all told, which just doubles down on your ability to make sure that every part of the paintwork is thoroughly coated. I'd made note on the day that the temperature was around about 18-19 degrees, so relatively mild and comfortable. It wasn't muggy or humid in any particular way, so just really a nice, ideal warm day for laying down some protection. When it came time to remove, the wax indicated just with a finger swipe that it was ready to be buffed. The cure time on this ran around about the 15-minute mark or so. We had a small cup of tea break as well, so there certainly wasn't any need to rush around the car. When it came to removal, I tried a combination of different cloths. I used a very short pile WoWo, tried a Plush Car Pro boa, and eventually settled on one of these zero finish towels, which was from Into Detailing. The wax came off as easily as it went down, a real pleasure just to remove. I couldn't observe any streaking or any issues on removal of the wax. It just left behind a nice finish. Since it was possible to get nice thin layers of this wax down, I didn't feel any bogging in the cloth or any grabbing. You can find with some waxes, particularly if they lay on particularly thick, that the cloth can become somewhat saturated, certainly if the wax remains oily when cured. This one, however, came off really nice, no dusting, chalking or anything excessive like that. In actual fact, just a relatively straightforward and simple buff. Once buffed, the car had a nice slick feel to the touch, no real grabbing to the fingertips that you could be overly concerned about. Not quite as slick to the fingertips as some sealants and a couple of other waxes that I've tried, but certainly not anything grabby or anything like that. It left a really nice finish to the touch. So before we do the water tests, here are the finished shots. I really like the finish this left on the paintwork. It gave a nice relative depth to the finish, which I think suited the medium dark grey paintwork that's on this car. And then when it came to water behavior, so 2 things to note here. So number 1, it's incredibly windy, so you're going to see a lot of buffering of these beads around the paint, which I found very satisfying to watch. And number 2, this does come from the house of wax which gave us Armor earlier on the channel, probably about 2 years ago now, and those were some of the best beads I have ever seen of a wax, so this one had some big shoes to fill. Pleased to say I was not disappointed. The wax beaded up nicely on all of the panels. It was able to sheet relatively well also, so all told, it really did fulfill everything I would expect from it in this area. That's everything as far as the walkthrough at this stage. I'm going to pass back to me in the kitchen to give a more in-depth summary. But thank you very much for watching. Back to me in the kitchen. So that was Armageddon. What did we think about it? First, let me just say, I think it's fantastic that this is a collaboration product. You don't see too many of them out there. There are some, ODK and Pyramid spring to mind as well as this one. But it's really good to see two fantastic wax makers in their own right coming together to make such a stunning wax. But what did we think about it? Let's have a look at everything. So first presentation, the pour on this one was fantastic. Glass-like on the surface. It's everything I've come to expect from both of these guys. They both really understand the power of pour presentation and how it sets your standards going forward. So it's great to see that. The label was really eye-catching. It shows a nice collaborative effect between the two of them. So all in all, I think they got the presentation right. In use, the wax itself was a medium to firm wax. It was really easy to pick up onto the applicator and it did spread quite a long way. It's one of those waxes where it'd be easy if you're not methodical to be able to miss areas, and by that I mean it goes on incredibly thin and it's relatively clear as you do spread it. So do, if you use this, apply a bit of caution to your waxing and just make sure that every part of the panel gets a coat of this wax. And you'll be absolutely fine. Cure time on it was reasonable. You're looking 15 minutes or so in relatively mild conditions, so more than enough time to take as a leisurely pace. Certain waxes you do need to rush around. This isn't one of them, but do, as always, just keep an eye on your cure times just to avoid yourself any trouble on removal. When it came to removal, the wax itself was very straightforward. If I was to grade things out of 10s, let's say, I'd put this up as a solid 8.5 towards 9. It was really straightforward to remove. You could take two approaches, and I tried off-camera short pile as well as a long pile, short followed up with a long pile, and it's really difficult to get this one wrong. You can really see that all of the user focus sides of this wax have been dealt with by these two gents when they're developing this. And it really comes through when I was trying it. As far as durability, you guys know I don't test durability. That tends to be something that for me, I'm waxing too often to really push waxes to their limit. So let's put that to one side for a second. The water behavior on this was fantastic. Coming from the same stable as Simplewax Armor, I was expecting fantastic things, and this certainly didn't disappoint. The beads are up there with the best of them, Armor included. I would put Armor slightly ahead in this race, but when you're comparing yourself against a wax like that, it's difficult to really overtake it, but to stand shoulder to shoulder with it, this one does that perfectly well. The finish itself has a real clean depth to it, so by that I mean it does add something to the paint which is a little bit darker, a little bit deeper than what was pre-existing, and it's a finish I really like. For a synthetic wax, this one I think did really, really well. I'm normally one that swings more towards the natural waxes, your Carnauba's and your Montans to name a couple, and the warmth and glow that tends to come with them. But this being a synthetic one, you would assume more of a crisp glassness, but this one actually surprised me with relative depth to it as well. So all in all, I think they did a great job there. So would I recommend you buy Armageddon? Absolutely. It's 200ml for £40 was the lowest price I could find whilst just putting this video together, and at that price is a real steal. The pot that I was using, which is the 50ml smaller sample, is still going to go a hell of a long way, and it can be had from several retailers for around about the £15 mark. At those sort of prices, this puts some more expensive boutique waxes to shame, and I think if you was to try it, you would love it as well. It's certainly one I can say is worth adding to your wax collection if you're looking to add to it. It is a fantastic, simple, easy to use wax. The finish on it is wonderful and the water behavior is mesmerizing. All in all, I think Simplewax and Waxplanet both did an amazing job with this wax, and really I would love to see more collaborations from them again in the future. So that's all for our Armageddon review in this video. What did you think? If you've got any questions or comments, please ask them down below in the comments section. I try to read and answer as many as I possibly can on these videos. And what else would you like to see reviewed? Of course, I'm behind on this channel. The long-time viewers and supporters of the channel will know that. but slowly, as I'm catching up with the help of Michael, who you've seen in a lot of the recent videos, we're getting up to speed and would love to put some more modern, newer waxes on the channel. So any suggestions, just write them down below and we'll see if we can get them on here for you. Thank you very much for watching, stay safe, see you again soon.